Post-combat, now entering second main phase.
Hello and welcome in everybody to another episode of the Second Main Phase, a competitive Magic the Gathering podcast brought to you by Team Main Phase and our wonderful sponsors, Kangaroo Tales and everybody's favorite, the Manable. My name is Jason and I'm joined as always with my good buddy Doug. Doug, how we doing today?
It is the daytime for the first time ever in second main
I
phase
know.
history.
Look at the light. It's so
I know. It's disgusting. I hate it.
vibrant. We are not vampires. We could prove it now, I guess. I don't know.
I wish I was dude. I would, dude. I kind of want to be a vampire, like low key. I think it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah.
I think I just want to glisten. Like I want to be like a
You want to
Twilight.
sparkle like in
In
Twilight?
Yeah. I just want to sparkle.
That's I can't fault you for that. That actually would be kind of
Listen, a man can
cool.
dream.
All right, so what do we got lined up today? We got a fun topic, I think, for everybody today. We're gonna keep that in a holster just for a second longer. We'll try to surprise you with it here a little bit, but a little bit of a fun topic that I think is pretty cool for us to talk about here, kind of in this in between. You know, we've been doing a lot of modern. We've got a lot of things coming up with the different events. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of just do a little something a little more fun for everybody. Of course, we've got a mailbag question that we'll get to.
And the change in the schedule. We tweeted about it, but just for people who are aware, who don't look at tweets, the new schedule will be because of work issues from Jason and I. The time of the upload is going to be 6 p.m. on Friday, every Friday, and then it's going to be posted on YouTube a week later.
The way it has to be for now, you know, I think ideally it would be best to have our content out there for everyone, you know, when the weekend starts, that you have time to digest that and listen to it and, you know, enjoy it, hopefully. But just the way that the schedule and timing works right now, we just can't do it. So
Yeah.
try to make the best of it as we can.
Yeah, it's either this or no podcast, and we didn't want that.
Well, that's
so.
not an option. You're getting a
it's not an
podcast. You're getting your
Whether
podcast.
you like it or not, you're getting a podcast.
podcast.
Listen here.
All right.
You gotta listen to us talk.
Let's get it started. Let's get in here and let's unravel some mysteries. We're gonna start with a mailbag question, maybe.
Main phase mailbag. You got questions, we got answers. Main phase mailbag is the main phase mailbag.
This week's question is probably one of my favorites. I think is a really interesting just a really interesting thing to think about when you're kind of thinking about Magic and how to get better and things like that. This comes from Twitter, from a good buddy from me, Carl, on Twitter, and he asks, is it necessary to have Magic the Gathering online or Arena to get better at Magic? You know, do you recommend using one client over the other? You know, they also mentioned that they were hesitant about having a client and, you know, having to invest into digital cards. You're already investing into your physical card collection. Now you're talking about investing into a digital one. If not, what are some other recommendations? You know, if we're not utilizing those tools, what are some other ways that we can improve and grow and get better at?
Yeah, I mean, this is a good question. I think a lot of people think that playing Moto equals getting better at Magic, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't really agree with that statement. I often find that your average Arena Ladder opponent or Moto League opponent is either A, playing some random nonsense that you're never going to see in a competitive REL tournament, and that's not going to help you get better, or they're like misclicking and like the triggers aren't resolving in a way that they'll be able to win the game from that point. Um, and sometimes the skill level can be not at the level you're always wanting to be as well. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of killers, a lot of great players on Moto, but
Yeah.
you don't always get to play against them. And when you do get to play them, that is a good way to level up. But it happens far in between. So personally, I don't feel like it's great. I feel like Moto is very good at being able to get in reps. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have a testing team that you respect, or friends that you think that are better at you or at the level that you are, that can give you more insight in the game, then I don't think Moto is a good replacement of that resource.
So I think That's a pretty interesting point. I'm going to jump in and kind of agree with you a little bit. I do think that there's no replacing the human element and being able to sit down with a friend across the table and go through all of that and learn together.
Yeah. Also, like, really, these games are for testing matchups, testing sequences of cards, and like that kind of stuff. And on Moto, if you misclick or do something incorrectly, there's no take backsies, right? And so you might get false data from that, like, oh, I misclicked, I lose, right? Or they misclicked and I win. Whereas, like in paper, if I'm testing with someone, if there's like a missing, like, no, that's incorrect, and you do it correctly, then the natural outcome of the game will occur and you'll get the right information.
Yeah.
I do think that like the Moto challenges are a good resource. I think that the competition, at least past round 2 or 3 at a challenge, is which the kind of competition you're gonna see at like an RC, like day one and sometimes day two. There's gonna be less misclicks, less misplays, and more established decks. And I do think that a challenge is a great way to take a new deck into a competitive environment and get some good raw data on how your deck can perform at a REL competitive tournament.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. That the first premise that Moto and Arena by an extension are not required. I don't think they are a requirement to get better, but they are a valuable tool that does offer some good things. Some of those good things are just getting reps in, just getting familiar with decks, environments, the other decks, opponents, putting yourself in situations and learning opportunities where you would be put in a situation where I don't know what the right call is. I don't know what the right answer is, but just getting to play out the games and do that, it is valuable. As human beings, the one of the best ways for us to learn or improve at anything is through repetition. And there's just no way to replace the amount of volume you can get in arena or moto versus the volume you can get in paper, right? Even if you've got a friend who's willing to spend all day Saturday with you, you're still probably going to be able to get more games in on Magic Online or an arena if you're doing that same thing there, right? Just the sheer, not having to shuffle, not having to do randomizations, not having to roll dice or anything like that, not track counters. All of that's just done automatically for you, which, some negatives to that too, right? We don't want you to be a lazy Magic player. We want you to be, on top of, um, remembering those triggers and doing and executing all of that, as you need to. But just for as far as the sheer repetition, you can't replace that part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Moto is great for quantity, but not necessarily quality, right? And I think that's like our main message on that is that uh, Moto is great for understanding a baseline of the deck. It is not great for understanding the intricacies of certain matchups.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's a good place to, like you said, get the reps in, but not necessarily quality. So again, I think it's a good exercise of kind of getting familiar with utilizing or knowing when to stop or when to do things. Do things in the upkeep or the draw step or at the beginning of combat, after damage, but still in combat. Like there's weird timings that you could do a lot of different things, and there are cards that benefit you for some of that. And I think newer players might benefit or get some advantage or learn a little bit from seeing that on Magic Online and then being able to duplicate that in the paper setting.
I agree. That's a very good point. Um, Sometimes if you're newer to the game and don't understand how all the rules work, just being able to see how individual cards function can be very beneficial for you. Um, if you are going to get into it, I think the rental services are the best way to go. Um,
Yeah.
it just, I would say like 5 years ago when modern and legacy were like more stagnant and there was like less movements in the meta, like it was like a good investment to like, I'll buy the deck I always play on Moto and be able to test it. And then I had to buy a couple new cards. But with bannings being more frequent, getting five to
Set
six
release.
sets a year, that is not feasible anymore. So rental services are really good at just being able, especially like if you get like a base version, depending on what website you go to, you can usually play most of the decks that are in the format. So I would always recommend doing that. I'm not going to shout out a certain one because we're not sponsored, and if they're not giving me money, I'm not going to give them free money.
Hashtag get at us.
And also, the moto economy is just weird and
Yeah, that's
fluctuates too much.
mhm. That's kind of my biggest problem. Like, I agree that the rental services are a nice tool. They're a nice additional feather in your cap that you can use, playing on moto, getting, just getting lots of mass repetition and getting familiar with things and seeing different, all of that's great. But, you've got to have the cards to do everything. And if you're not willing to invest in it, or, maybe we're not in a spot where trying to invest into two different collections, my moto collection and my paper collection, that's just not feasible for a lot of people. Magic is an expensive hobby, like you mentioned, with all the sets and everything you have to, it's just, a never ending pipeline of stuff you've got to buy. So, the rental services can be good there for that, and help save some money. And yeah, I totally agree. The economy is kind of not what it used to be on Magic Online. It's tough. It's a tough thing to sort of try to crack into. So, rental services or trying to do some very budget friendly things could be better options. So if you're not going to use, Magic Online, let's say that's just not an option for you, right? I can't really do the rental service. Where do people go then if you want to try to test or try some other things or just improve it all? What are some other options you think, Doug?
Well, we already said the best thing is this testing with friends, teammates, people you respect, if that you think that will get you better at the game. Um, but if you can't meet in person, Cockatrice is a great resource. It's a free website that has access to all cards. The downside with Cockatrice is it doesn't have like a system in which triggers happen by themselves.
Right.
You have to know what
You've
the
got to do
triggers
everything
do.
manually,
Yeah. So if you're
which can be
doing a new
good and
deck,
bad.
yeah. So if you're doing a new deck, you do have to research how the triggers work. You have to manually click everything. But if you're trying to test with people that you trust that aren't in the same, zip code as you, it is a great way to do it for free. Other ways you can get it is just like, just trying to take notes at your local FNMs or local RCQs and discuss it with people that you trust. If you can't, meet up or you don't have people to test with on cockatrice. Watching informational programs like streams or podcasts that give you more information. Twitch is, believe, free. I mean, I don't pay for my Twitch. There's a lot of people streaming. There's a lot of good people streaming. You get a lot of information that way. Uh, and if you don't have anybody, you don't have a system right now, like, just work on your fundamentals. There's thousands of resources from years of Magic on, like, how to mulligan, how to approach certain archetypes. There's books out there. I know Patrick Chapin just wrote his second book on, like, the fundamentals of Magic. Um, there's just tons of resources out there
Yeah.
with just getting good on the fundamentals that you can look at, and a lot of it's free still online at, like, Star City, TCG. Like, they still have catalogs of all those documents written by, like, Brad Nelson, Reed Duke, you know, all these pros. Like, there's just so much information. It's like, just work on your fundamentals, and then when you have time for games, get those games in as well. But there's so much you can do with just having good fundamentals.
Yeah, I mean, again, totally agree with Doug here. The best place to start is to finding a group of like-minded individuals that are similarly motivated to you, right? Time and effort are a big part, and if you can find the right nucleus of group of friends to do that with, nothing can replace that. I think that is the best place to have this, open dialogue, this way to kind of evolve and grow and learn. It's just the best way to do it. Start small, get organized, set goals. Extremely, extremely important to set a goal. We need to learn this. We need to learn that. This is what we're trying to do today. We've only got 4 hours to sit here and play, hang out, get some food. Let's try to do this, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. It's very important to try to set some of those goals. And again, those are the things like Doug has also mentioned. There are decades of articles written by anybody and everybody. Read that, absorb it, read it again, watch videos, watch content, go back and look at old pro tours, watch the coverage, watch videos. There's so much that you can get from the internet. That is a lot of that's also going to be free. It's just going to be available to you, and those are good places to set sort of like a curriculum or something for yourself. All right, I play 2 hours on Friday, 2 hours on Saturday, and I read or study for another hour somewhere, something like that. I don't know, figure it out, whatever, come up with a game plan. And I think that's a good way to do a lot of that. You can replace some of this. I would encourage both actually. Having Moto or Arena. Arena's free. You could just draft. I don't know. There's just anything that lets you get those reps in, to develop those skills, and then also include a steady diet of reading, researching articles, working through things with a friend group.
That's our food pyramid of getting better at Magic.
Yeah, exactly. 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 Um, Awesome. I think there's hopefully a lot of good information there and some good things to think about. Want to move on to maybe our main topic. We've got a fun topic for everybody. Um, the Hall of Fame is back.
Hmm.
Magic Wizards of the Coast has announced that we are bringing back the Hall of Fame. I believe that announcement happened at Pro Tour Marvel Superheroes in Amsterdam, right? I think that's part of the panel of things that here's all the sets that are coming out. Here's the in universe. Here's the universes beyond stuff that they kind of lay the framework for what's coming up with the next year. And one of those announcements, one of those changes was we're bringing back the Hall of Fame. How's that make you feel, Doug? First, just gut reaction. Hall of Fame's back. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic. I think the Hall of Fame is like one of the like most important things for the Magic community. Um, I'm very happy that it's back, and like the fact that it is back signals to me that competitive Magic is starting to get healthier again.
Yeah,
Because it
it's a good
kind of went
point.
away during COVID, and then after
The
COVID,
esports era.
yeah, it went away in the esports era and COVID, and then after all that happened, it still didn't come back because things were kind of wishy washy. But these last couple years, people have really started to come back to competitive Magic, and because of that, the Hall of Fame's come back, and I think that's just like an economy indicator that things are starting to get better. And that makes me very happy that I'm still, having this competitive drive. And it gives me another thing to strive for.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a good sign that the game is in a healthy spot, and I think a big part of that is, for those who don't know, Huey Jensen is in charge of competitive play. He's the director of competitive play at WotC. I don't know his exact titles. You forgive me if I'm not quoting that correctly, but he has been sort of the leading the way on how organized play should work. We brought back the GPs, and what now those are called Spotlight Series, and a lot of that is through sort of what Huey's brought back to the game. And I think he probably has a hand in, or probably was pretty involved with this decision to bring back the Hall of Fame. So I think with him sort of at the helm, driving the ship, hopefully we'll see competitive Magic continue to thrive and continue to kind of go in the right direction. And I totally could not agree more that having the Hall of Fame back is a huge part of the game. It's this legacy that is enshrined, just like anything else that we're fans of. It's very important, and it really lets us um, shine a spotlight on those that really deserve it.
Yeah, it also brings a lot of legitimacy to the game, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just like Magic is the oldest card game, and the fact that we haven't had a Hall of Fame for a while kind of irked me, right? Like to me, this is a historic game. This is the first
Yes.
successful trading card game, and this makes me happy. Hugh Jensen is also a Hall of Fame member, so it's no surprise that he was able to make something.
Yeah. Kind of connect the dots
Yeah.
there. Yeah, for sure. Well, so like we said, we're happy it's back. I mean, what is the Hall of Fame? It is just a collection of players that have defined the game with high level success. That's sort of the book answer, I guess. I guess I should also mention that Hall of Fame players do get a Pro Tour invite under the current system, under the current rules. That they do have one PT invite they can use per year or per season. I guess, is that right, Doug?
Yes, that was the original rule, but when I was researching this article, they also said that you could use that invite for the limited championship as well.
That's true. That's true. With the new limited championship, you can use that Hall of Fame invite there as well. So a new little kind of wrinkle with that was which is also a cool option, a cool opportunity for sort of the existing Hall of Famers out there.
Yeah. So they get the invite. They become part of the exhibits that like kind of travels with the Magic team of being in the Hall of Fame, and you get a sick Hall of Fame ring.
You sure do. You sure do.
Dude, those
Yeah.
things look like Super Bowl rings. They're sick
They really
as
are. They
hell.
are just like a Super Bowl ring. It's actually kind of crazy. So,
Yeah.
that is what the Hall of Fame is. What are the requirements? How do people get in it? Where are they at with that now? Now that we've picked back up on it.
Yeah, so there's three requirements to be on this year's Hall of Fame, the 26 Hall of Fame. One is to have at least 5 top finishes as of July 2026. Those top finishes include World Championship top eights, Pro Tour top eights, Team Pro Tour top fours, Tabletop Mythic Championship top eights, Digital Mythic Championship top fours, Digital Mythic Invitational top fours. This was all during the year sports season, so
Yeah.
they don't happen
COVID
anymore.
esport is kind
Yeah,
of weird and all the terminology changed a little
yeah,
bit. So, yeah.
yeah. A lot of these requirements are a lot of the esports that they were doing during near
The
COVID.
rebrand and yeah.
The main things are Pro Tour top eights, World top eights, but they also have the Digital Mythic Championship top fours, Mythic Invitational top fours, Players Tour top eight, the said Championship top eight, the Grand Finals, MTG Arena Championship top eights, Magic Online Championship top fours, and winners.
Yeah, the big ones that people are going to be probably familiar with at home are Worlds, Pro Tours, and Mocks. I think
Mhm.
those are going to be names or events that the average person might be familiar with, and that's where the bulk of these top finishes are going to be coming from is from those events.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. It's just they have a bunch of these ones that people never heard of because they was there in the air sports era, and
Yeah, and that name change, different terminology, but equivalent. There's three requirements. So that was the first one. What else
yeah,
do
you
they
have to
have?
have five of those. The second
Okay.
one is individuals have to have 5 top finishes. One must be included from 1994 to 2019, and one must be
Hmm.
included from 2020 to 2026. So they're not going to be any people that are available for this Hall of Fame that have not done well at least once recently.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. And that's specifically for the 2026 ballot. Is that right? Is that how
mhm.
they're sort of structuring this right? We've got this weird gap in time because of the COVID and pandemic situation. So we're looking back at some previous data and some, events currently too. So they're kind of picking a little bit from each of those buckets.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it's going to change quite yet. We
Yeah. I don't
don't
think
know
they've,
when the 1994 2019 is going to change. Because there's a lot of great players that have had so much success. It's honestly nauseating, but that's all from like the last 6 years.
it's only recently. Yeah.
Yeah, like Simon Nielsen and Nathan Sawyer come to mind. Um,
Boilers.
I yeah, I think most people think that they would be uh, Hall of Fame candidates, but not as it currently stands.
Yeah, it is important to note that they are not eligible. They are not on the ballot. They could not be on the ballot, even though they might have the success or there might be some names that people want to see here.
Yeah, and instead of doing it yearly, the Hall of Fame is going to be by yearly. So every 2 years, they'll set a new ballot. So we'll have to see in 2 years if that requirement is going to change.
Yeah.
Unsure at this time, or how long it's going to take for it to change to not
Yeah,
include.
what that window looks like.
Yeah, and then there's a third requirement, and that is the individual must be in good standing with Wizards of the Coast, i.e., not suspended or under investigation.
Yep. So pretty cool, pretty straightforward. I think, basically we need to see 5 top finishes. You've got to have it in this kind of year window and be in good standing, which is what we would expect for anybody that I would try to enshrine into the Hall of Fame anyways. Um, all right. So after we kind of run through those requirements, we can actually just spit out a list of names that are eligible. Do we want to run through those really quick for the people? I can.
Hit me with it, Jason.
All right. So based on those criteria, here are the names that would be on the ballot that are eligible. That would be Marcio Carvalho, Javier Dominguez, Ken Yukihiro, Jean Emmanuel Depras, Andre Strosky, Andrea Mangucci, Jan Moritz Merkel, Brad Nelson, Samuel Pardee, Andrew Cuneo, Yuki Ichikawa, Yuta Takahashi, Akira Arashi, Matt Nass, Logan Nettles, Eduardo Sajulik, Shahar Sinhar, and Mike Sigris. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys are well-known players throughout the history. Some, more well-known than others, but a lot of good finishes, a lot of good PT memories from those people.
but yeah,
Um, I think the main thing of this episode is who do we think deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, I think it's important to kind of maybe we should kind of do this like our ballot, right? Doug,
Yeah.
you'll have a ballot, I'll have my ballot or my votes, right? And then maybe we can kind of set a little bit of criteria for each of us. The way I would approach this may not be the same way as you approach it, or anybody at home.
Yeah, I think if you just did it off of individual top finishes, the top four is Javier Dominguez, Marcio Carvalho, Ken Yukihiro, and John Emmanuel DeProp. Those
Yeah,
four have had the highest big success, multiple pro tour, wins, world wins. Uh, they have the best
right.
resumes by far. They have the most top finishes. So if you just did it based off of individual success, those would be the four people on your ballot because you can have up to four. Uh, of course, we didn't say this before, but individual people like us are not voting. It's a committee of 40 of
Yes.
Wizard employees and competitive Magic players. I try to look up who's on it. I couldn't really find a
Yeah, I don't think they
definitive
have that
list.
information
Yeah,
available to us yet.
but they're people that are dear to Wizards of the Coast. So we don't have a say, but we're gonna talk anyway because we have a podcast. Deal with it.
And we're fans. We're fans of
And we're
Magic, right?
fans.
This
Yeah,
is something that we're passionate about. This is something that I care about. Peek behind the curtains here. This was Doug's idea to talk about the Hall of Fame, and I immediately was like, yes, that is exactly what I want to do. Because this is something as somebody who's been playing Magic for a long time, it is a large part of my life. I would not have this friend that I have across the internet with me right now here without Magic, right? Doug is not in my life without Magic. And so this is something obviously I very much care about. I'm a fan. There are people out here that I like and want to see succeed. I want to see them enshrined in the Hall of Fame. So, that's kind of the lens that I'm kind of approaching this through is through this lens. It's not just who has the best resume. Okay, move on.
yeah, 100%. I think that would be boring because then the podcast would end here. It's like, all right, those four
Yep. All
later
right, we'd be done.
Gators.
No,
Yeah.
see you guys later.
Um, yeah, for me, I think the criteria is like 60% success and 40% the character of the person slash and or their effect on the community.
Why don't you give us your vote then? Like, let's you're ready to, sign the ballot, sign your slip, bring it up to the podium. Who are you voting for, Doug? Who are your two nominees?
If I had two nominees, I would put Brad Nelson and Ken Yukihiro.
Okay, I like that. It's good names. Why don't we start with Brad? Walk me through why Brad. How did we settle on this? Right, you kind of talked a little bit about what some of your criteria is. If you want to go into a little bit more detail on what you're sort of looking at or why you selected some of these guys.
Yeah. So Brad is more of an interesting take. If you just look at resume alone, he doesn't have the strongest resume compared to the rest of the list. He's more the middle of the pack. Most of his success was in GPs, which are not counting. He had 19 GP top eights with 3 wins, which is in the top 20 all time. Uh, he had 4 PT top eights with no wins, 2 Mythic Championship top eights, an Arena Championship, and was Player of the Year / Rookie of the Year. And not to mention that he was a fixture on the SUG circuit, which was the
Independent.
semi-professional independent
Yeah.
American circuit. Um, and he had, tons of wins and accolades on that side. But like,
Yeah. Additional success
yeah.
there as well. Yeah.
So he has a decent PT success rate, but not as great compared to the other people on this list. But I think something about him speaks more to being needed to be recognized in the Hall of Fame, and that's
Hmm.
because of his impact on the game, right? So Brad Nelson, alongside his brother Corey Burmeister, used to make a lot of videos that were usually free on Star City Games, highlighting new strategies and like certain matchups. I think it was called the Versus series, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
They used to do a big part of versus live. Brad
Yeah.
was a big part of that.
Yeah, so I remember like as a newer Magic player watching those and soaking up all this free information about how are these pros mulliganing. Brad would be like, I'm playing a mid range strategy. These are the hands I'm looking for. Like this hand I'm mulliganing because it doesn't have XYZ. This hand I'm keeping because XYZ. Right, and it was free. It was free for anyone to watch on YouTube. If there was like a new archetype that came out in the TP top 8, they would talk about it, play it, go pros and cons, go over sideboard plans, and it was just
It's a
that kind of
great.
impact. Yeah, that's just so
Yeah.
great that he did it
Yeah.
on YouTube. You didn't have to pay for it, and you got all this free information. And he was nice and charismatic, and like very welcoming to the audience. Um, and it just did so much good to a lot of people, especially myself, who were newer to Magic and didn't have the resources to get, the premium article selection and stuff like that. Um, and another thing I said I kind of glossed over is that like he had a lot of GP success. That's not counted in the Hall of Fame, but I think that counts for something. Like 19 GP top eights is insanity. And he's one of the only people to go truly undefeated in a GP in GP Omaha. He didn't drop a match.
Yeah, that's a good point. When we looking at the criteria that's set out by WotC, it is only looking at the premier level events, the Worlds, Pro Tours, like we've mentioned, that was sort of outlined. That does not count GPs or Spotlight Series. Now is what they're kind of called. So there is a lot of other places that these players have shown their skill and success over an extended period of time. I agree with you. I weigh that into evaluating, who's on my ballot.
And even though he hasn't been playing a lot recently, like some of the other players on the list, he still is a forefront in the Magic community because he is one of the main directors for MTG Melee, which is one of the main platforms that PTs are played on,
Yeah,
spotlights are
competitive
played on,
events. Yeah.
and they provide a lot of data. Sure, there's been some rough patches throughout the years, but him and his team have shown that they want to keep everything seamless and they keep working tirelessly to make it the best platform that it can be. And I think that really speaks volumes of how much he cares about the community. I think Brad Nelson envelops everything you want a Pro Tour Hall of Famer to be and speaks a lot more to the human elements rather than just the success.
Yeah, character and community are something that's important to me, and we'll get to that as I kind of break down some of my criteria. But I'm in step with you there. I agree. I think Brad is another name that I can see me putting on my ballot, bringing up to the podium. So uh, definitely in line with you there. So who else would be your other name then?
So I kind of went for like one solely based off of character and the other one mostly off of like they had a ton of success.
Yeah,
And that's why I chose Ken Yukihira as my second option on the ballot. He has 7 PT top eights with 2 wins, one in the last year, multiple GP top eights with 2 wins. Just one of the best Japanese players in history. There's a long list of them. Um,
yeah. There's a lot of them.
yeah.
A lot of great
So
ones.
he might not be the most winningest player on this thing as well. I would say he's in the top 3 of people who've like won a lot of premier events. But I also think that this is a player that's actively improving. Like he's had 2 top PT top eights in the last 12 to 14 months. Let's just call it a year. He has 1 win. Like I think this is a player that can continue to get better, and that's actually insane because he's already well qualified for the Hall of
Yeah,
Fame. So
yeah.
so I think like adding him would be a slam dunk. It would also be like a point of emphasis, like, hey, even though he's in the Hall of Fame, he's still improving. Like that's something that Wizards can be like, hey, like this is something you should strive to be, right? Like this is like a model of what you want to be, and it can really boost the morale of a lot of players like myself who are always trying to get better. I have this like bad habit of like when I reach a certain milestone in like my playability, I get too comfortable. And I can look at Kenny here like he didn't get comfortable, right? He won a pro tour, he's still getting better. And like who knows, maybe the next year or two he might win worlds and like, keep going from there. So
Yeah, I mean that's actually a really interesting element that I hadn't really considered with this is that it is awesome to see these players evolve and continue to have, Ken's not a new player. He's been around for a while, right? He's had some success, he's had some success in the years past, and he's still finding success now. You've mentioned in this kind of short interim, he's had a lot of great success. 2 PT top eights and a win in that window is amazing. And to see him continue to get better and to continue to grow, it is something that players in our seat and listeners at home can really like latch onto and connect with, right? We're all trying to improve all the time, and to see him continue to make steps forward and just really see him land success with that is amazing as a fan of the game.
yeah. No, I think he's a slam dunk choice. Even if he doesn't make it this year, he should be an automatic lock in
Yeah,
for
his
the
resume
next
is
one.
enough alone. One quick thing that I also want to point out about Ken that I think is another unique thing about him is he really tends to bring decks to these pro tours that are very different and very unique, right? He had Hollow One at one of the pro tours, right? Ken was playing the Trunch deck here at the Marvel Pro Tour. But I
Mhm.
think those are sort of definitely more unique or out of the norm choices. And I think Ken is sort of known for that. And I appreciate that. I applaud him for that. I like that he's willing to draw a line in the sand and take a shot on something, and
Mhm.
I wish I was able to do that, or wish I had, had sort of the skills or the nerves, I guess, maybe to kind of to do that in some spots. So something I really like about Ken specifically.
That's a great point. Yeah. He's also a good example of like following your gut and being confident in yourself that like, hey, I'm making the right decision and not conceding to like this is the best deck in the format.
I've got a couple of names, but like you, Doug, I kind of want to define my criteria a little bit because there's a couple of things that I'm looking at too. One of my big things is I need to see that success at the Pro Tour. As a fan, those are the people that I'm cheering for. Those are the people that I'm connecting to, is the people that are like hoisting the trophy at the end of the day. So the people that I'm sort of backing or pushing for are generally people that have had that success at the Pro Tour level, right? We look at Brad's resume. Brad's only made the 4 Pro Tour top eights, no wins, right? That's kind of a step in the wrong direction for my criteria, maybe. Some of the players I'm looking at are maybe players that have hoisted the trophy multiple times. And like you, another huge factor for me is that community impact, the community um, just connection, right? Like Brad, that's where you and I align with him, is that I do think that streaming, production, um, just being approachable and signing autographs or whatever, that kind of stuff matters to me. Again, I'm in the seat of a fan here, and these are players that I am a fan of, whether it's interactions that I've had or just stuff that I've learned from them personally. Um, so using some of that, there's definitely a few names on the list that I think their resumes are a little too thin, or they just haven't had the PT success. So that kind of crosses a lot of them out for me.
Okay, who's your main people then?
The first person I'm running to the podium with is Javier Dominguez, my goat. Love Javier. I think he's charismatic. I think he's amazing. I think he's uh, uh, just an all around excellent representation of what I want enshrined in the Hall of Fame. He has the resume. He's amazing. You just can't help but root for him. He's just this genuine, likable person. I see him anytime on PT Sunday. That's who I'm cheering for. And that carries over to my family, right? Like I have family that's the same way. We're just like, how's Javier doing? How's Javier doing? And so he's got the resume, he's got the success that I think backs that. But that's for me, that's the first name I'm running up to the podium.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a slam dunk. He has the most accomplishments out of anyone on this ballot. And you're right. He's just very approachable, very nice, a huge pillar in the community, at least for the last like 5 to 6 years, as like one of the best players and one of the nicest humans on Pro Tour. And I think a lot of people, especially people getting into the competitive community, can sometimes get a bad taste in their mouth from certain people in the competitive community. And I think Javier, I've never heard anything bad about him. Every time I seen him on camera, every time I interacted with him, even in passing at like pro tours. Like he's been very cordial, very nice. Everyone has something nice to say about him. And I think having someone like that enshrined in the Hall of Fame sets a good example for people how they should act and how they should operate in the competitive scene.
Yeah, there's just so much I could say, and even the team, right? He's a big part of what's happening with him and Anthony Lee and their team. I guess they're under the banner Team Cosmos now. I think is
Mm,
if I'm not mistaken.
I
Just the
believe
way
so.
that they've sort of tried to uh, develop and grow what we consider a professional Magic team. It's not just all right. We get together the week before the PT and we figure out some stuff and we go play the PT. I think they're really trying to push the boundary there and push to improve that process. And I think that's something that him and Anthony Lee have really spearheaded a lot. And that's something that I appreciate a lot, is just how they work as a team, how they approach the game, and always looking to find different things. You could say that this Pro Tour team, the Pro Tour testing team sort of philosophy hasn't really changed a lot, or that identity, or that how they approach their process leading up to a Pro Tour really hasn't changed. And I do think that their team, Team Cosmos, is doing that in a lot of different ways and looking for different things. It's not just, hey, this is what's worked in the past. We'll keep doing that. They're growing and improving and trying different systems and methods. And that's something that we've talked over and over and over again is try different stuff, try new systems, set a goal, look at different things. Don't just be, copy paste Magic Online metagame. So huge part of him for me.
I couldn't agree more. Who's your secondary?
So the second name for me is going to be a little bit different. I don't think they quite have the same resume, obviously. But another person that I think encapsulates a lot of what I want to see, Sam Pardee. I don't think a lot of people might see, Sam Pardee's name listed on our list and may not think, oh, well, Sam really have the resume. He does. He's got the resume to back it, but maybe not quite the peak that Javier has. Right? We don't have any PT wins. We've got some Grand Prix wins. We've had the Pro Tour top eights. We've had some strong finishes like that, but no Pro Tour win. And that was sort of one of the things that I'd said that I was kind of looking for is to see that really elevated success. Sam doesn't quite have that. But what Sam does have is another thing, another just great community person, another person. I have personally played matches of Magic against Sam and just stepped away. Wow, one, he's amazing, and two, he kicked my butt. And here are things that I can learn from him.
Mhm.
And I think that that's s- just something it just feels really important, right? I don't know how to maybe put it all into words, but there's something that just captures me. And as a fan of the game, I'm a fan of Sam, and that would be my vote.
Yeah, I think Sam's a very charismatic person in the community. He's one of those like long list of grinders that was always like near PT like success. Like could have had a couple more PT top eights, but things didn't cut his way. But yeah, I mean recently, he's been doing a lot of stuff with his partner, and like that's been very inspiring and fun to watch. Um, I've run into him a couple times at epic events, and he's always also been very cordial as well. I do like how we both chose like a slam dunk and like a dark horse.
Yeah, independently, we just kind of both were like, okay, well, this is the guy with the resume with these kind of things, but there's this other person that we want to see. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that ended up working that way.
Yeah, I think this is like a great example of like somebody who personally encapsulates what an ideal Magic player should be. Uh, and I think that's also important to have in the Hall of Fame. I think it's important to pick up people who are nice and kind, and show that niceness and kindness through games of Magic, rather than just having the ultra powerful wizards. Uh,
Yeah. I want to see people lift other people up around them. And that's kind of the vibe I get with specifically with Sam, right? I really feel like Sam's the kind of person that is elevating those around him and cultivating a positive impact. But he also likes to play a lot of the same decks that I have. He's played like Abzan and Jund and stuff like that. So, I've got to be a fan of those decks as well.
yeah, there was one person that I almost put on my list. They were a big pillar of the community, and I want to see them be successful in the Pro Tour,
Hmm.
Hall of Fame. But I feel like they didn't meet my minimum requirements for top level success, and that was Andrea Maguchi.
Hmm.
I think he's close. I think if he has another top finish in the near future, I could see him being put on the list. Like if he, wins a PT or top fours worlds or something of that nature, I would put him on there.
Hmm.
But I think he's at like the bare minimum of requirements for top finishes. But
Yeah.
his impact on the community is much larger than anyone on this list, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think
Actively
he's
still. Yep. I totally agree.
active pillar in the community. Yeah, he has big morals and a big personality,
I
and I
like
love
that.
his videos.
I
Um,
do.
I think he's done more community impact, but I think he just needs one more finish at
Really,
the
yeah.
top level to really solidify himself in the Hall of Fame. Because like I think he just needs a little more.
Yeah, I agree. Andrea is amazing. He's, just charismatic and energy and loves magic and is passionate about it and brings that passion to everything he does. And that is infectious. And I love that. And that's the same kind of uh, behavior and mentality that I have. It connects with me. So I totally agree. He is another name that was really close for me. Was right there. Any other close calls for you, Doug? Anyone else that was kind of just on the fence for you, maybe that we thought about?
Uh, not not really. I mean, JED is like another name, but like He has success. He always seems like a nice guy. He's a world champion. Um, I think that like if he doesn't make it this year, he should make it in 2 years because he's also still at the top of his game. Um, a lot of other people are like names that like I kind of like, but like don't have enough impact in the community. But I think all these people are worthy of praise and stuff of that nature. What about you, Jason? Who is a close call for you?
I had a couple of ones, I totally agree with Jed. John Emmanuel has had an amazing run. He's in what seems like a fairly short, time. He's gone from starting to crushing it so quickly. I think he's another name that eventually gets there. And same thing, seems like all the signs point to the right thing with the community and type of character that we want to see in the Hall of Fame. My other was Andre Sorotsky. Is another name that's been around for a long time that I've seen do well. I think he was close on my list for me. It was pretty close between him and Sam, I think, as far as they've got the right accolades, but just kind of my um, familiarity with Sam kind of pushed me a little closer to that. I
Mhm.
think Matt Nass is also another name that's pretty close there too. Another one that personally have played a couple games of Magic against and loved, super super thrilled with his recent um, PT win for him. Again, like you said, there's a lot of names here. There's great players, and you kind of have to find ways to sort of artificially create some degrees of separation. But I like our ballot. I actually think that we kind of crushed it here. I would have no problems taking these four names to the podium. Brad, Kin, Javier, Sam. I'm on board with that. I'd love to hear what everyone else is thinking, the listeners or followers out there. If you had to have a ballot, what did your ballot look like?
Let us know in the comments of the video what you think. You can always add us on Twitter. I'm always on there because I have no life. Um,
Wait a minute.
yes, I kind of pointed out at the beginning. There's two players in mind that I feel like are shoo-ins for Hall of Fame, but don't meet the requirements at the time. We said at the beginning, Simon Nielsen and Nathan Stoyer. Um, I wish they were applicable because I think they would be auto includes.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
I think like their story from zero to like top player of the world at different times is huge. And they've both had, big setbacks and been able to come back stronger. Um, so I think in 2028, when this comes back, I hope they're able to be on the ballot because I will vote for them 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I agree. Really good point to kind of bring those names back up that, because they're the way that Wizards has lined this out right now that they're not eligible. But I would imagine that after we get the 2026 class in, that they'll sort of adjust those years, where the years of eligibility come from, and I imagine that they'll be there. Even if they're not in that next one, whenever they become eligible, I think they're going to be first ballots for a lot of people, right? Same thing. I'm running up to the podium with Simons. Nathan's meteoric rise is just so fast, so crazy, and so amazing that those are the kind of things that we want to remember. Those are the kind of things that we want to applaud. That's what the Hall of Fame is kind of all about for me. So
Yeah. And both their streaks were like historic in nature. Um,
crazy, just
yeah,
crazy runs.
for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, why don't we wrap it up here? Again, like we said, I can't wait to see what everyone else says and thinks about Hall of Fame voting and just, what does your ballot look like? I think that's going to be really fun. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this. Of course, we can't do this without our friends and partners here, Kangaroo Tales and the Mana Vault, our wonderful sponsors that make this kind of happen for us. Team Main Phase, without them, we wouldn't be here either. And of course, we can't do it without our mascot, Chowda.
She behaved herself. I was so proud.
She
She
did
ate
great today.
She went to the recliner and ate her bone. I was very happy for her. But no, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I can't wait for Worlds when they'll announce the Hall of Fame ballot. So until then,
We'll
goodbye.
see you next time. Awesome. See ya.